I've got the money to provide collateral funding for projects. I bring IPPs, I bring off-takers to the market. SAA, where I want to say, I bring energy to the people and the people to energy. In a nutshell, that's what we do. We are the first private market participant in the South African power pool. So regional integration is a key business leverage for us, where we de-risk most of our trade through the power pool market. We are excited about South Africa developing a wholesale market as well. So that will also increase opportunities for investment in the country. Without further ado, I would like to hear from our panelists, what are we doing in terms of the bits we are doing to make the contribution to bring the investments, rather the much needed investment and opportunities you guys are exploring or maybe advancing already in the country or in Limpopo in particular. I will start with you, Mr. Mbangiseni, while your presentation is still fresh. You've done a lot of academic research. What are the challenges you are seeing from research to commercialization that you can share with the audience, and how can the investor sitting in the room assist you to commercialize some of these researches at a large scale to create more job opportunities?
Okay, thank you very much. I think when you look at it from our experience is that to upscale where we are is really a challenge. And the uptake of those technologies is also really a challenge. But we tried to get some partners in our projects. We tried to get some investors in our projects. Each project we do has already have an investor in part of it. I can give you an example of the, if you were to talk to what would be that the Limpopo province can benefit from our research. The Platinum Valley Corridor is a very at a high level or the advanced stage at the moment. As we said, it starts from Limpopo, stop at Gauteng, and also towards the entry to Durban. In that way, we partner or we speak with some of all the industries which are along the corridor. We got ESCOM to assist in that regard as well. We got even AXA, we have an MOU with those guys in that area. We have those guys, what is it that we're doing with them? As I've shown that we can decarbonize the transport sector. So in that regard, some of the ESCOM guys, they really want to decarbonize their e-mobility inside. Even the AXA, they want to do the same thing, they want to decarbonize that. So we already have a proven refueling station that we're already collaborating with Toyota. As you saw, Toyota was refueling in there. So the refueling station, we can have a production somewhere, and then we can really take that green hydrogen to refuel some of those projects. As you have seen some of the projects where with ESCOM at Grootfontein, we tried to upscale one of the projects in that is still in the discussion. It's a massive project, very, very expensive, as we say. But however, what I've said that some of the people can benefit once you get the fertilizer, some of the surrounding farmers or the industry, they will benefit from that fertilizer and take it forward. Especially like Omnia is around in that corridor as well. So in short, I think that really assists, especially in the Limpopo, as we say, starting from Limpopo. We collaborate with Anglo Platinum. It's something that we're really moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Ntate Teke, as the biggest coal resource owner, we've seen you diversifying your business into a green energy portfolio. What has been more rewarding for you in terms of contribution to the integration of energy transition in the country thus far in what you've done?
Good afternoon. Yeah, when we started our business, I have spent my time in the coal mining industry. And it's one of those industries a lot of people castigate and say we must shut it down and we must move to renewables and transition, and this is old. My strategy is simple. My strategy is that what rewards me is that what is going to make the country survive or the continent survive and be strong. And this province of Limpopo is a strong energy mix. But that strong energy mix is going to be premised on a foundation of a base load from coal. Coal, we've got 16 coal-fired power stations. 2 of those are right here in Limpopo, Medupi and Matimba. And for us to have a great future as a country, let's mine the coal, let's generate electricity out of coal, but let's not fail to understand that climate change is real. We understand that. The reality of transitioning to green energy is real. And that is why, as Siriti, we're saying we're no more a coal mining business. We are an energy business because now we've invested in wind energy. We are building 130 wind turbines in a town of Morganzone, Bethal, and Emelo. And when I talk about that, I'm not talking about concepts. We are building right now. We are going to build 130 of those. We'll produce 900 megawatts. But my vision into the future is to look at opportunities in provinces like Limpopo. Probabilities are that to expand into the solar market is big. Why? Because the future of energy is going to be a mix of coal, which is a fossil fuel, a mix of wind, solar, hydro, and nuclear. And those opportunities are there for us in South Africa. For us to spend time in what I call persuasion fatigue, arguing as to whether coal or renewables, that's not my story. My story, it's coal and renewables into the future. It doesn't make us climate denialists. We understand the climate change issues. We understand we must decarbonize. But the opportunity for Limpopo is for all of you to explore that proper energy mix. What can you do in Limpopo in terms of expanding solar? Looking for opportunities for wind. There could be areas, some pockets for wind in this area. We have explored that. I'm not going to talk about this until commercialization. And there's opportunities in terms of nuclear and hydro. So what has been rewarding for me is that we are expanding into growing this energy mix, and we believe that we're going to play a prominent role as Seriti Group.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ntate Hlatsi, as the banker, I mean, they don't have access to capital. That's a big issue for them to get into, to participate in active economic energy sector spaces. What is the role of renewable energy, and where do you see pockets of opportunities for emerging, and I'm saying I be deliberate and say emerging or aspiring Black independent power producers to participate, and how can the bank help to facilitate this, or what are the bankability considerations you would consider?
Thank you very much, Precious, for your question. I mean, as you rightly articulated that, I mean, for us to realize these projects, I think money is important. I mean, without money, I think it can only be a dream. So I mean, for us, we always really find opportunities in where we can play. But I think one other thing I want to indicate here, and I think even from the audience where they say there is really capital required. I mean, how do we access it? I think one, we have to really even ourselves assess in terms of, the bankability of those projects, because that's one of the aspects that if you come into the bank to really seek any funding, even from some of the DFIs and stuff, that is important. And how is important is because whoever is deploying private capital, there is really a expectation that the same capital has to be returned back. So that's why we have to do it. And I think what I would say to advise to the audience in terms of where they are, I think let's develop our projects to such an extent that they become bankable. Things like permitting, I mean, we speak to really entrepreneurs, investors who are exploring this project. But I mean, some of the projects, they come even to the lending without being ready. Like things like EIA, things like having grid access and stuff. So those are the tick box if you are exploring renewable energies that you need to have before we can even look at it, before we can go to structuring, because we can deploy capital. Because there is sufficient capital. I mean, if you look at the likes of ourselves, Nedbank, I mean, there are billions of investment that we've made, like the renewable energy program that is established by the Department of Energy and Mineral Resources. You see the capital that the private participant has put it there. It's like over 250 billion. And we're talking about the funding that is there, the projects that are already there. I mean, Sriti Green mentioned one of the projects that they are doing in Mpumalanga. Most of them are like fully funded by like the lenders or with the higher gearing. So it really shows how, there is capital. I think we just have to make sure that our projects are also like, ready to be banked.
Thank you. I see my timekeeper is still sitting, so we do have more time. It is really challenging because when I do my social empirical surveys, a lot of people understand business. They understand business from a production perspective, but they don't understand business from a market access perspective. Maybe coming to you, Ndadeteke, what advice can you leave with the audience around doing research around market access? Because without that, there is no banker or lender or funder that's going to give you money. And that's where primarily we should be starting. But we start with business ideas that don't have market access.
Well, the first important thing is, what is it that you want to do? And you can't do everything. I've always found that a lot of people, and it's not out of desperation, but it's because a lot of people that have that entrepreneurial zeal. They have the energy, they have the wish, they have the dream, but then you tend to lose focus because you look at a lot of things. What is it that you want to do? Right now, I'll give you an example. If you were to say to me, in Limpopo, what would I do? There are 3 things I believe the future is going to be sort of focusing on. It's data. It's an interesting story about building data centers. It's going to be a big thing. 2, it's energy itself, and then water. Those 3 areas, I would say to a young entrepreneur, look in those areas at the moment. That's focus. The second big thing, it comes with a terrible, terrible thing that people don't accept. It's a work ethic. You need to have a work ethic second to none if you're an entrepreneur, because A, you don't wait for somebody to pay you. You pay them. So on the 25th of the month or the 30th of the month, people look at you. You don't look at somebody. That's the second big thing. And the last big thing is, I think the issue of funders is important. Who is funding you and what are they funding you for? I'll give you an example. When you build a wind turbine in a place like Mpumalanga, the first question that banks will ask you, do you have access to the grid? How are you going to link to the main grid? And if you say you don't, so it comes with that research and the ability to spend time in researching all those things. Now, let me close it by saying all these things want resources, money. And the banks are there, but we need to make sure that your preparation, your front-end loading, your research is properly done.
Thank you for that. And also another observation is there is actually also capital, even grant capital available to help people turn their business ideas into feasible commercial business cases. But people just don't know how to access that information or even where to go. Ntate, as the bank, what other social corporate responsibilities are you guys doing as a bank to inform or educate the population?
I mean, as you indicated that, there is like funding available, and I'll talk for financial institution in general, even like not referring to us as Nedbank. Like there are project preparation funding that are available. Like currently, you look at the issue of the grid. I think as Sriti Green have mentioned, to say there is challenges. We need to upgrade the grid. Northern Cape is depleted, and now there are some discussion in terms of how do we open up the grid. And I think those of the private sector that they came and say like, we do understand the challenges, we have to deploy capital and help government in upgrading that grid so that a lot of projects can be connected and everyone can have electricity. If you look at the statistics in terms of the number of people who still don't have electricity, we have to like really address that. So the ultimate goal in terms of us making sure that we are in the forefront and working closely with the government to see that certain challenges that they're experiencing in really opening things like the grid, that we are there. The ultimate goal is to make sure that everyone, even the person who sits in the villages, they can have access to electricity and a cheaper one. I think the reason why we are pursuing even more renewable energy is because of the competitive price of it, because we, at the end of the day, we look at how tariff needs to be escalated, the ESCOM mentioning how they want to up, to increase the tariff. And sometimes it's because I know that as an end user, you complain about the tariff going up, but you look at it to say there are some of the coal power plants, they've been operating for long, they require a lot of maintenance. So there is a need of capital to really, keep them going. So by bringing the new ones, I think that's where we have to really curtail things like the cost and make sure that, the electricity is affordable for everyone. Because we can have electricity, but if we can't afford it, it also does not make sense. So we have to really address this. And for a province like Limpopo, I think the precious thing we have is really a great sun. That's a really good resources. You don't need to buy it. We have it all the time. So other than, just banners, we can actually produce something that is more valuable.
Thank you. You're bringing an opportunity here that is available for all to grab, but we are not seeing emerging black power producers coming out of Limpopo. There is opportunities, and Limpopo is still fortunate to be one of the province that still has grid capacity. 3,300 or so megawatts is still available to connect independent generators. And there are opportunities if you're an aspiring IPP or you are in the IPP business, but you're struggling to find clients, you're struggling to find projects. There are spaces and places where you can go and ask for help. I'm also here, you can connect with me. But coming back to the panelist around grid access opportunities, Mr. Tek, I'm gonna come to you again. Are you planning to explore Limpopo in the near future with green power?
Yes, we are looking. Yes, we are looking. In different areas, yes, we are looking. But the sooner something happens, we will act and will implement something, yes.
And more opportunities coming. Watch the space. Keep track of Siriti Green's growth opportunities that are coming to Limpopo to benefit your communities. And Tate Mbangiseni, I'm not neglecting you. It's very difficult to marry academics without business support. What are you doing to make sure that there is a seamless relationship between the academia and business in order to sell these lovely projects that you're working on day and night to take them to commercialization?
No, thanks very much. I think that's something which was really a challenge for us in the past. But when we fund each project, we really speak to our academics that if any project needs to be funded, it needs to show who is the investor in that project. There should be a business partner in that project. Firstly, it was really difficult to get that, and we had workshops around it to make sure that each project that we fund, we've got an investor in it. I gave an example of the work that I do with the Limpopo University. They were close to MMC, but they were not talking to each other. And they were pushing the same idea, the manganese, beneficial of the manganese, but they were not talking to each other. But we had a conference or a workshop on that, and they are now good buddies. The MMC is even taking our researchers when they complete or our interns that we train on that. MMC is already employing them, which is really good partnerships. And at the same time, they go hand in hand to get some international partnerships around that. As I mentioned that in China, I think we've got Beijing Espring, yep, who really is assisting us to commercialize. One of the challenges to commercialize the materials that we have. So Beijing Espring, we found a partner where they are really experienced to take that product to the market. So we do have those products, but what can we do with them? We need a partner that takes that to the market. So the commercialization part is still really challenging. I've got my colleague here from Amintech, I think it's something that we also spoke about with the Mintech as well, in terms of having those products, having those MEAs, having those catalysts to say who can take this to the market. And fortunately enough for us, some of the things that we did have some spin-off companies from our project who stood alone, but I think the uptake is still very minimum as compared to other countries. We see this when we visit other countries, and recently we visited Japan and we had a lot of support from those guys from Japan. I think they will be visiting us next month for 5 days just to move around with our research and development projects, and they're really promising to invest heavily in that. So it's something to be seen. But however, something that I'm really not proud of is that there's no visit to the Limpopo province. But last year I did bring some people to during our energy, hydrogen conference to Anglo Platinum, just to see how we partner with Anglo, especially on the hydrogen production in that regard. So yeah, that's really a challenge sometimes. Thanks.
Okay, it's a challenge, but seems like the one that you are up for it. And I hope if there's other businesses that have been listening to your presentation and are interested, you can connect with them during a networking break. Coming back to you and Tate Hlatsi, there's a lot of mining businesses in Limpopo. And, going into the low carbon economy, and soon with the carbon border adjustment mechanisms, starting financial obligations on them will be huge because of our carbon intense grid or electricity we offtake from Eskom. We do need to accelerate renewable energy. But how are the banks, or how can the banks help to accelerate the implementation of these projects to help the mines to green their portfolios?
Yeah, thanks, Precious. And I think you were on the point about, some of the mines that are in Limpopo. We got, encouraged to see, the likes of the Exaro mine here, that are close to Midubis. Transitioning into that, now we are seeing Seriti and stuff. We might have seen even Anglo, showing commitments in terms of, they are planning decarbonizing some of their mine. So I think to the point where Seriti mentioned to say, I think the two, even if we're exploring some of the minerals, but to explore them in a more environmentally friendly manner, I think that's the ultimate goal where we are. And I think as a bank, as you're saying, without the capital really realizing these projects is really going to not be achievable. So in terms of what we're seeing, even where we see regulation being implemented, like when we see the president uplifting some of the legal requirements to make sure that, projects, even with no threshold from the private sector, that they can now, produce power privately and stuff. I think it's the banks that they always come and support in terms of offering enough capital for those projects to be really realized. But as I indicated to my earlier point to say, I think for us to really move, we have to really move in a manner where we see that all these bankability aspects are also addressed. And I think the issue of grid, I think it has to be something that I saw that some of the government officials are here. I think it's something that we really need to prioritize, because we've seen the really private sector, how encouraging they are. There are a lot of jobs that I've created. I think even Siri can indicate to say, if those number of turbines are now deployed in Mpumalanga, it's not only the turbines, there are people that are there on the ground that are doing the civil works, they're doing the electrical works, they are young people that have to be really skilled to really go there. And I think it's mentioned really a good point to say, even for young people to say, energy is one of the aspects that they must really explore in terms of their career progression, because that's where we really see. And even if you look at the number of years in which we are looking us to really be zero or carbon neutral, we're looking 2050. So which means those opportunities are going to be there up to 2050 or even beyond. So I think for funding, I think once we have bankable projects, there will always be enough funding. There's always commitment. The most financial institution, even ourselves, as I'll say, we already deployed more than 30 billion in the renewable energy space. And there is really a lot of appetite to really deploy it in further projects.
Bring back my mic, thank you. Ntate Teke, there are a lot of anti-coal sentiments when it comes to low carbon economy, climate change, rightfully so, depending on which side of the fence you're standing. And you yourself, you've acknowledged, yes, there's issues, and you're also diversifying, because in the transition, all resources need to coexist in order to bring a balance. Just to pick you on, what are the things that Seriti Resources is looking at in terms of energy transition map going forward, and what are your just transition give back to society?
The first important part, we need to understand that as an energy business, we are looking into this energy transition seriously this way. One, we've invested in green energy, as in wind. We are looking at several solar opportunities. The first 155 megawatts of electricity that's going to come out of those wind turbines is going to be powering all Seriti mines. So that's the first part. The second opportunity that we're seeing in the industry, which young entrepreneurs must look at, if you look at underground mining, the main carriers, the transporting of people underground in bakkies using diesel will reach a stage where somebody will see an opportunity to come up with an electric vehicle underground. And that's going to be a big market leader. That's an opportunity for you to reduce your carbon footprint in terms of not using diesel. There are quite a number of opportunities if you look at scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 in terms of energy. And we continue to seek those opportunities as a business. One, solar. We've got lots of land that we rehabilitate as mines. Open cast, and what do you do with that land? You leave it as is after you've rehabilitated. We are looking at opportunities to put a lot of solar panels, but making sure that we link to the grid and we have the market. The trick here is energy affordable? Is it accessible? Is it sustainable? And can it benefit the communities within which you operate, and is good for the environment? So we are looking at quite a lot of those opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you. I think maybe I'm going to give the panelists a last round to share any last thoughts maybe I haven't asked. I'm going to start with you and Tembangiseni. Your last thought?
No, thanks very much. My last thought, as I shown in my presentation, is that we deploy this off-grid energy or electricity that we assist. So we'll continue doing that with some partnerships, and also the fact that some of the product that we produce, we really want to go to the market, we really want to compete into the market, so that we see our product being used. That's one of the challenges. As I said, when we visit overseas or internationally, we see people with the same product that we produce here. Theirs are being used or commercialized easily. So that's one area we really strongly focus on. Maybe as program director, I saw you've got experience on that. Maybe I will start with you in that area. Thanks.
I was listening to the Council for Geoscience. Don't ignore that presentation. Take advantage. Lithium, graphite, there are huge opportunities in this province for miners, young miners, emerging entrepreneurs to look into that opportunity. The last big one, the sun is free. It's natural. Make sure that you look for opportunities that are nearer to the grid to build these solar panels and find a good market for them. We are working as Seriti actively. We are finding wind pockets in this area, and we will be back one day.
Over to you.
All right. No, thanks, Precious. I mean, I think what I will say is that, I mean, Limpopo has really a great willingness to really achieve great. I think for government purposes, I think they must, allow the environment to make sure that if the businesses are coming here, there is enough support. Other authorizations that are required, the processes are speed up to make sure that those projects are realized on time. And as for us, it's like the community sitting here, to make sure that those projects, when are here, we give them enough support. I know that there are a lot of business forums that also want opportunities there, but let's engage in a more that is like really realizing goals rather than stopping the process, because some of the projects, some of the investments that some private sector wants to put it there, and they're seeing that some communities sometimes they become destructive in a way. I think let's work together to make sure that we understand the goal, and even if we come with looking for opportunities, but let's be in a manner that we know that we have a goal to achieve. And I think that's where I think we should work. And I think this investment conference, it has been great. I think going forward, we have to really act, because we can talk and say that we'll do things, but if we don't act, as I say, there is enough capital in the market. I think the issue of money is not an issue, but the issue that we'll experience is if you bring projects that are not ready. The banks, what they will never do, or any financial institution, is to really give you capital in an environment where they realize that even yourself, you are not ready to go and achieve your investment. If you have really a bankable opportunity that you want to bring the market, that I can assure you that there will always be appetite and capital, because at the end of the day, we know that you will realize your investment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our panelist discussions. I can see the MC giving me the look that says it's dangerous to talk energy when people are hungry. They don't have energy. By that saying, that's me signing out. Precious Mpepele from Africa Green Co. If you have a project that you're struggling to bank, please talk to me. We are here to provide that collateral. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You were ahead of your time. I appreciate that, because we have the last panel now. Any pledges that are still outstanding? Always? Where are you? Everybody here knows Always. That man standing, raising his hands at the back. Please, if you haven't logged your pledges, make sure you see him, because after this panel, we are going to go to the investment pledges. And Premier, I've got to just single out one panel member here. All right, we need the next panel mic'd, please. Let me single out one of the panel members here. Mike Teke is a product of this province. He went to the University of Limpopo.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he was a teacher.
Where is that lady?
So please, give us teachers a break. We made all of you. But the point I'm making, Premier, is one day he spoke about the university, and he said when he came here as an orphan from Guatemala, there was no other university he could afford to go to. In fact, he had to work for a year before he could get to the university. And because he didn't have a family that could take him there, he had to make a plan to pay for his school. But at least the university that he knew he could afford was the University of Limpopo. And I'm not saying the university is above anybody else. There are still many students. We get 150,000 applications, more than 150,000 applications every year. Students who want to study. You know how many we can take in? 5,000. And these are kids who cannot get into